Hi everyone, Patrick here. Welcome to the new monthly project. This is number 68 and the theme was species swap. So pretty fun kind of creative theme, and I really liked the idea of it, and I thought it might spark some, imagination and creativity. So, you can imagine it being a little bit more of a, positive negative kind of thing is a really good way to mix these things up. Some good examples are like, a robotic kind of cybernetic futuristic character, reimagined as an organic like creature thing, but with the same kind of look and design elements. So, spinning that kind of thing around, and like a fire character swapped around for maybe an aquatic species, very cool stuff you could do with this. Let's jump into it. Going to see what everybody did for the month, and we'll get into some ranks and some of the trial system stuff too. So let's have a look. All right, our first entry is from David Bento. I think you're new to this. This is your first kind of submission here to the monthly project. So welcome. I'm really glad to have you on board. I love this. I think it's really cool. You've got a Wolverine, and the species swapped of, basically human to an actual Wolverine beast, which I think is a really, really cool idea, especially on such a popular character like that. It's just really fun and really interesting. And yeah, I think it came out really well. There's a certain style to it that's kind of like a bit of a flair, like a cartoony flair, but or a comic art flair. And I really like that. So I think you've done a really cool job. Let's have a look at your trials to see, how you've hit the marks. I think with creative transformation, how original and imaginative is your species swap. I think I'd give you 2 stars for that one, because it is a really cool swap, and especially going for, your beast-like, I think is really cool for Wolverine and very animalistic, especially since I like how you've got the tubes, like it's a science, experiment kind of thing, and these wristband things that are, I just think that's really cool. It's mechanical, like he's been forced into it kind of thing, which is very cool. So yeah, I think 2 stars for that. I think design cohesion, how well does the new species integrate with the character? I think it works well. So I gave you 2 stars for that as well, because it's it is quite, a good mix. Yeah, having that beast side of things, I think it's very cool like that, and it's got those recognizable traits as well. So from a distance and straight away, you instantly know it's Wolverine, and it's supposed to be Wolverine, and it's an animalistic one. So that's a really big tick there, to be able to recognize the character still, even though it is a complete different species. That's hard to pull off, and I think you nailed that. You absolutely nailed that. So, everything feels like it belongs. And for anatomical structure and, believability, I give you the 1 star for that. Now, I was nearly going to give you 2 stars, but it's only because of some things, right? So, the anatomy, it's really down to the drawing stage. It's a little rough, a little too rough. I'd like things to be a little cleaner and more recognizable. So, like the pec muscle that should come through here, it's really hard to understand that and see where it is. It's kind of tucked pretty high, I think, but there should be more shadow under it or something rather. Things like that. It's just, as you look in a little closer, it's too sketchy, you know what I mean? So if you had that all tightened up and a little more recognizable, as in like correct, you definitely would have bumped that up to 2 stars, even 3. So that's the only reason. It's the structural side of things. So I just wish it was a little cleaner. It does get a little rough. So yeah, and then for execution and visual impact, I gave you 1 star as well. And that's a similar thing. It's the execution of the art itself. I do like the colors overall from a distance. It's got a really, it brings me in. Like I like the colors and the way it is, but it's when you look at it a little longer, it gets a bit rough. Like these tubes have, they're a little wonky and get a little thin through here. It's inconsistent. All the details are quite rough, and the line work is all the same size, really. You do have a bit of pressure sensitivity through the pen pressure. I can tell where you got a flick of the wrist and you can get a thinner stroke from thick. You have a little bit of that, but I would like to see more finesse through there. And like things like this, like with the earpiece part that pops up, you got the other line from behind it actually cutting through. I wish that was just kind of cleaned out there and erased that part. How it goes through to the head, it gets a bit rough, that's all. So so the execution is not quite there, but it's close. Like, I really like this design. So well done. I think you did a really good job. And how about I put it in Photoshop and we'll just see what we can, see if I can help you in any way here. What I'm finding is it's definitely, it all just comes down to the line work and execution, I'd say. The colors and everything seem okay. I actually don't mind your rendering as well. It is a little rough, but it works from a distance. It's really coming down to the line work. I just feel like if you just had that nice and clean, it'd be so much better. So for instance, like, look at the lines behind here. I'll just hide that white fade I had over it. Yeah, very rough as it comes here, but so if you just tidied it up, I'll just go and do a bit of a once over and see if I can show you what I mean. I think it helps to have a visual guide, of the approach you should probably try and aim for next time. Alright, I'll just show you what I've been doing. So I'll just tidy up a little bit of line work here, but do you see what I mean when about the line work, just the quality? So if I just raise that a bit so you can see a little clearer, I'll just put it in a folder so I can show you. So so this kind of thing, you want to try and amp up the overall quality of it to try and get very clear visual of just the structure and everything. So I've gone in and had a look at the fur a little closer, every little stroke of it's like a comic art kind of style of fur, so it's a little more like you can have little bunches and tufts like that come out, but then smooth, just suggestions that it's fur basically. And then and I'll just make that one a little cleaner. And then when you get to anything mechanical or that's a hard surface, I've really structured this, this port that goes into the skin, and you got the fur tufts around it to hold it together, and then the pipes, just really clean kind of lines, and you can see the contouring of how the pipe actually bends, and then it arcs over, and these little lines, they change direction, and they have to eventually match that hole to port into it. So. And then it bends around here and goes the other way to go into that one. Little things like that all add up when you put the thought into it and try and spend some time in the line work. Honestly, if you applied this kind of line work into your entire character, it'd be absolutely amazing. This is a really good design. I'm encouraging you to. I'd love to see you go over this again like I have, with just put a white screen over it and just redo the line work, or just really spend some time on those lines, go all the way through, and you see your results, and you'll be very happy in the end. Trust me. I hope you give that a go. But you see what I mean. So we'll go before and after, just so you can see the difference. There's the gear and the pipe here. Things like that. So just amp up the way the line work is. And another thing to keep in mind is just the line consistency. So I go nice and thick and bold to hold the arm together, and then taper out to really thin details as I move inside the character there. Thin little details are really nice, especially here. So you see how they're like nice thick lines around the gear thing here, but then as I get in, it's thinner, much thinner, for finer details, especially these little contoured ones that go around here. much finer little details. You don't want to have bold all over, because that's just not appealing enough. So yeah, I usually go bold to hold an arm together, or anything that's like its own thing. There's like an arm going over the character, bold around that. Anything with that's going to have shadows, like under the tuck of the bicep, it's got extra shadow and thickness there, and then thin in the details. So I hope those tips kind of help. I really can't wait to see what you do with it. I hope you move forward with it. Really love your design. Yeah, great work there, David. All right, next up we've got Paul Churi, and this is Mystique from X-Men, and you did a species swap. What if she was like a mermaid version of her? So I absolutely love this artwork, by the way. I think this looks beautiful. Really, really top quality work. You know what I'm really, really admiring is the way that you've achieved the ocean waves above, like the reflective with the sun coming through the water, but then those reflective little moving kind of wavy little lines that go over her. I don't know what you would call them, but the ripples of light that go over her. I love the way you've achieved that look. I've tried that before and I couldn't quite get it right, and you've really done that well there. I love that. She looks great, really good. Let's have a look at your trials, and I'll go through that. So creative transformation. I gave you 2 stars for that. How original and imaginative is the species swap? I think it's a good species swap. I think it's very imaginative. So I gave you 2 stars. The only reason it wasn't 3 was more like, and this probably applies well to design cohesion, which is the next one, and how well does the species integrate with the character, the species swap. And personally, I don't know if a mermaid is the first thing I think of when I think of Mystique, if it matches her. I mean, it's fine, we can absolutely do whatever we want, but it's more about, for this trial, does it work for her? I don't think so as strongly as other options. I know, like, I looked it up online, what is Mystique inspired from, in the original comic creators, and they talk a lot about, the Greek gods and the mythological shapeshifters and femme fatales and things like that, where, like femme fatale, where they would like manipulate or be deceptive and trick people, a lot in that kind of thing. And, ravens, she's inspired by, if you had to think of anything, I think a raven, like that, the crow or the bird would be a very good species swap for her, like in that way. That's what they say here somewhere. Yeah, so she, the Celtic goddess and shapeshifter, who is, this is the Morrigan, it is often associated with ravens. So, she's kind of inspired a lot by that. If there was any animal species, it would be like a raven. So that's kind of what would have worked really well for her, but that's okay. But you know what though? When you have to think of, a mermaid one, look into Greek mythology and stuff, and all the myths and creatures and things, and that the sirens are like mermaids. They also are like deceptive, and that they'll trick. This is kind of what what a mermaid is really. The idea of, I think, the creepy version of mermaids, like the real version is, and I think The Witcher did it well, is they resemble a woman or a person, even though they are technically a creature with sharp teeth and stuff, but they try and trick males to come into the water a bit closer, because they're like females and attractive, and lure them in to take down their prey, kind of thing. So, and I think sirens, that's what they were called, and they're like mermaid kind of types. But that kind of ties into Mystique a lot, being deceptive and a shapeshifter and changing into things and trying to trick people. So yeah, there is a certain element that really does work there. So I hope that didn't drag out, but I really wanted to explain that. Design cohesion, yeah, so 1 star there, sorry. Anatomical and structural believability, I love that. I think it's 3 stars, absolutely. I mean, look at it. There's not one thing I could point out that is an issue here. She's held together really well. There's the structure, everything in it is spot on. I think it's really, really good there. And the execution and visual impact, 3 stars, because the execution is just really good. Your line work, top notch. This is comic art quality, like this is studio quality stuff. So, I really think this is some really good work here of yours, Paul. You've done a great job. So you know how strong the final artwork is overall. Perfect. I think that's really great. Let me throw it in Photoshop. We'll have a bit of a look. Oh, by the way, you did level up in rank. You are now going to be adept. So congrats on that one. And let me put it in Photoshop and we'll have a look. All right, I'm in Photoshop now, and let's have a look and see what I can improve. I think it's mostly just a color thing or lighting. That's kind of what I'm seeing here, that we need to make the character the best kind of way it can come across visually. So that's what I'm going to help improve. I just was looking online and I found this is a siren that I was talking about, the mythological version of a mermaid, kind of like that, probably even more monstrous, but like they're more fish-like, but they kind of resemble a person. That's cool. I like that, like, darker version of a mermaid. I think that's kind of what yours is like feeling more like, which is cool. Right, let's have a look. So I think that I'll just make sure I got a backup of your artwork so I can show it a comparison later. So it's the backdrop really that's I feel like it needs to be lighter. So I might even just go, let's do like a bit of a screen over it. So what I might actually do is go like, let me just get some colors together that I think would be pretty cool. So if I just fill that, and then we get like a lighter version with a soft brush, and I'll just go the top half where the sun beams through, and just I'm thinking of the character behind there, and then let me just get a darker thing of that as well. So get that darker vibe and the deep ocean where it's going to be much darker, like that kind of thing. Right, so now that we've got that kind of color screen, which I like, I'm going to mess around with it. So let me just see what it looks like if I scroll through my layer modes and see what it kind of does. I mean, I like how it does up there. What if we did that, right, but then just took the opacity down? See, this is what I was trying to get at, was like, you need some kind of light screen to help that character pop. Even that is really cool for me. I'll try something else now. If I grab that, merge them, and then go to camera raw filter and play around, I think we can get some really cool results with this. Ignore her in the middle because it's the background we're trying to focus on here. I'll just get a little more clarity in the back. I think it's the vibrancy that I want to bump up, and then maybe the tint's fine. I actually do like the color it's at, maybe slightly more into the blue. Alright, let's try that. So a little more vibrant. Let's try another version of that, and I might just see what happens when I go soft light. Lighten it up a bit. So this, once I add that soft light layer behind it, I'll just take the opacity down a little bit. I think that's helping a lot already. So now we need to work on like her. So I'll see what we can do. Because that arm's in the back, I'm going to make it darker, not lighter. And then I'll lighten up the front of her and the top of her a bit more there. Just like some parts of the hair, like push it back in space more, so I'm darkening it. But I really want to make sure that a lot of that hair stays red. Alright, I want to try one more thing. I'm going to duplicate that darkened version, but this time I'm going to go insanely dark just to see what happens. Because sometimes I'm like, I hold back a little bit and I need to stop doing that. So camera filter, it needs to definitely be more of a purpley. So color, temperature, purpley blue. Ooh, just a bit of less vibrance. Let's do that, and then I'll just bring back when I think it's a bit too much. See, I do like the way it works when it gets pushed back a bit more, especially here in this arm, like stuff like that. I do like the way that's working. So let's just try and like get a bit more of a gradual look in some parts. It's so intense. There, that's fine. And then I'll just want to go maybe, a little more like pop behind some parts of her. So, you know, the dodge tool here. Maybe I'll just do it like this and go until I feel like that's about right. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so I just added an extra glow to the back just so it's really oceany and like, I don't know, I just quite like the way that looks there. I'm gonna try one more thing actually, just while I'm at it. Like, I don't know, adding a bit of grunge or something might be pretty cool, like as in that resembles water. So if I sample that lighter blue, maybe spray a bit of that. Yeah, behind, I don't know if that really, I think it kind of helps, like texture kind of works really cool with this style I found, and I've been experimenting a bit lately. So I'll just get like a lighter blue and put it up here. Yeah, you don't have to do this, I'm just trying stuff out. It could be an overload, even if I did like half of that, but anyway, you can take the opacity down if I don't like it as much. But you can see I've added like a slight texture to that, which I quite like, but it's totally up to you. So yeah, you see what I mean? I quite like the way that works with the backdrop light. And so let me show you what it was before we did any of this, right? Let's get the original back up and put it over the top. Alright, so before we started, it was this, and now we got this. So those are my recommendations, just really a color lighting kind of shift for the world around her. Do you know what I mean? So you kind of get a sense of depth more, and I think overall it's more appealing, especially from a distance. You know, she's really popping now, and it's like really lifting off that scene. Whereas here, some parts get a little lost, or you know, the background here is pitch black pretty much. I think that's pure black. Let me sample that. So yeah, pure black. So I recommend pretty much never doing that with any kind of backdrops. Have some kind of sense of distance. You need to not have black and some kind of fade or fog or like a screen or something over it to just push that background further away. Do you know what I mean? So now it's like definitely pushed back. I quite like the way it looks there. And you still get all the details of your hard work, like all the line work of the skulls, everything. They're just fainted or faded a little bit back, and I just think it's more appealing and easier on the eyes, and makes more sense with the distance. Anyway, I don't know if I'm rambling again, but yeah, I quite like the way that works now. I love your work, Paul. I really hope these tips help. Awesome work there. Yeah. All right. Congrats on the level up too. Cheers. All right, that's it for this monthly project. So there's only 2 submissions. Yeah, can't be controlled. That's fine. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that one. And yeah, really great work there, guys. I really love these. You guys have put some good work in. Really cool species swaps there. All right, and I'll leave you all to it, and we'll see you in the next video.